the Rock Vault at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. The greatest classic rock songs of the 60s, 70s, and 80s, performed by real rock stars. I should know. I'm one of them. I'm Phil Soussan. I played with Ozzy Osbourne, Billy Idol, Vince Neil, and many others. I'm currently with Last in Line. Like so many other musicians, the first time I saw the show, not only was I hooked, I wanted to be in it. I'm always excited to share the stage with this unbelievable cast. Guys like Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Howard Leese from Heart, Dave Amato from REO Speedwagon, and Hugh McDonald from Bon Jovi. See, we're all active musicians, and so our roster includes members of big bands like Whitesnake, Dio, and Survivor. We get together and perform songs that you and I love by The Who, Zeppelin, Stones, Queen, Journey, AC/DC, and more. Voted Best of Las Vegas 3 years in a row with reviews from thousands of happy rock fans and rock stars alike. Come and see Raiding the Rock Vault at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas and relive the magic.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Okay, you made up for it near the end. One more time. What's up, everybody? Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Tempesta. I'm the co-host of The Morning Blend on Channel 13 and afternoons on Mix 94.1. And it is my pleasure. Cannot believe this is the 14th Conversations with Norm. Thank you so much for joining us today. Absolutely. We're all donating our time for this exciting event, and it's been phenomenal time and time again. Today, going to be no different. Today's show is a fundraiser, by the way, with all proceeds benefiting the Smith Center's education and outreach programs. The Smith Center's mission includes a strong commitment to arts education and ensuring the exceptional experiences of the arts for young people in Southern Nevada. And before we introduce our guests and our host, Mr. Norm Clarke, let me thank our sponsors that help make this all possible. Binion Steakhouse, Nevada Coin Mart, Channel 13, of whom my general manager is here. Thanks for keeping me on the payroll. Las Vegas Review-Journal, Elite Media Incorporated, Vegas for Locals, Jerry Metellus Photography, eVision Media, and Las Vegas Keynote Speakers. Are you ready to go, everybody? All right, let's get this party started. He's the former celebrity columnist for the Las Vegas Review-Journal, been voted the best print journalist by the RJ Readers in 2013 and 2014. He's also the 2015 recipient of the Denver Press Club's prestigious Damon Runyon Award, as well as receiving the Vegas Dozen Award from the Saks Fifth Avenue 2015. He was also honored by Mayor Carolyn Goodman when he was proclaimed July 8th, 2017 as Norm Clarke Day in Las Vegas, and he is also a Las Vegas Raider cosplayer. Ladies and gentlemen, Norm Clarke. Great to see you again, Norm.
Do I use your mic?
Huh? You'll be using your own mic in a second. Well, don't you have a mic on you?
Oh yeah, I got a mic on me. Sorry.
14 times,
Stage
Norm.
fright.
Killing me.
Stage fright.
And finally, we must introduce our guests, shall we? Raiding the Rock Vault, classic 80s rockers we are so thrilled to have to the stage. Paul Shortino and Robin McAuley, come on down.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, you see it. Thank you, Paul. You guys have a seat for a second.
It's a nice
just
change.
want to welcome you all to our first Conversations with Norm with rock stars. This is our first rock star show. Couldn't have done better. Love these guys. They've been headlining at the Hard Rock since March. They were selling out at other places across town also. Robin and Paul grew up across an ocean apart. Robin near Dublin, Ireland, and Paul in Lima, Ohio, in Southern California.
Sorry, dude.
Buckeye. We've got a lot to cover quickly because our featured guests are going to perform a 12, 13-minute mini concert in a few minutes. So, here we go. Let's start with our Irish guest.
I'm very nervous.
Sure you are. Robin grew up in Tara, Ireland.
Yes.
With 5 brothers and 5 sisters. When Robin was 13, your father
Passed away. Yes. Actually, Anna, 51 years yesterday.
Oh my.
And nobody should be without their dad that long, right? So, thank God for 5 sisters. That's all I can say. And an amazing mother who kept us entertained by playing the accordion for us. And
She was the musician in the
she
family
was the
then.
musician and the local pub. And typically in Ireland, pubs have a habit of not closing on time. And you leave when you basically get carried out. And ours was the first house closest to the pub. So, no, it's true. And whether the kids were in bed or not and had school the next morning, you'd hear the accordion kick in and the front door would, you don't lock doors in Ireland, at least not in those days. And everybody that would drag their butts out of the pub late would end up in our house. So you'd be going to school some mornings and the melodeon, as we used to call it, the accordion, would still be going, and it was just par for the course. It's just how you grew up. Got to hate that instrument over the years, though, I have to tell you. Yeah.
Paul, your family was musically inclined as well. Talk
Correct.
a little bit about that
My
environment.
mother also was a singer. I was singing Bill Bailey and Up a Lazy River and all kinds of songs that younger people wouldn't even know they existed. And I was singing at a young age. My family, my mother was in vaudeville and did some stage things, local things, and my uncle and her whole side of the family were musically inclined. So yeah, and
I'm younger than you, right?
huh? So my first instrument my great uncle gave me, it was a ukulele. My wife just gave me one not too long ago, so I guess it's what goes around comes around. In my crib, I was strumming instead of a guitar. I was, strumming a uke.
And when did the guitar come into the picture?
Me and my friends, we were watching the Ed Sullivan Show. What a concept. That was MTV when I was a child. And
This is in Lima, Ohio.
in Lima, Ohio. And the neighbor kids had a guitar, and I had seen the Animals on Ed Sullivan, and I fell in love with the House of the Rising Sun, the picking and the changes. And so my neighbor showed me that and brought the guitar to our tent, which was just a blanket over a clothesline with some clothesline for the stakes, the clothes tipped. And so I played the guitar all night long, and then on my birthday, I was gifted a guitar, a Kent guitar. And the strings must have been this high off the neck.
And what birthday was that?
That was my 12th birthday. And I actually picked the guitar up when I was 11. So my 12th birthday, I got my own guitar from my great uncle's pawn shop. So I went in there and got to pick out the guitar with this strings that were that far off the neck. Got very strong fingers now.
So growing up in northern Ohio, were you exposed to some great shows?
No, I think I saw a band called Sweetwater, and then my parents split up, and her family had moved to California, so that's when I really got exposed to a lot of what was going on in the world, because that whole San Francisco scene was happening, and I was in penny loafers and tight pants, and everybody was wearing bell bottoms and no shoes.
Look at us now.
I know. Now you know why the two of us are up here. Thrift.
Yeah.
Your first gig then, Paul?
My first gig, actually, I was going to Roosevelt Junior High, and I met a guy that played great guitar. So I decided to play bass, and I was forced into singing, and my first gig was at a club in Glendale, California called the Copa. And Ricky Ricardo performed there, actually. No.
I have to jump in. If you know Paul Shortino and he says he was forced into singing, think about that one.
Your mom worked at the Copa, right?
Yes, my mom was a waitress and a barmaid there, and we were able to play, and we had a drummer. I was like, I think 16 at the time, and the guitar player was 17, and the drummer was in his 20s. And my mother was working there, so we had to get off stage and go into a room. But I grew up really fast, playing in bars, like as Robin, going to the pub. And, you're around people that aren't your own age, so you're around folks that are, you find out how things are working, how guys pick up chicks and how chicks pick up guys.
Paul said his first song that he ever sang was House of the Rising Sun.
Yes.
And the first pub I ever played in London was actually called the Rising Sun. Small world. Huh?
Yes, it is. And here we are.
Yes.
We woke up at the Clarke Stupid at the Rising Sun.
Paul, you attended Roosevelt High School. Were there any famous people that came out of there? Were there at the time you were there, or later?
Well, I would say FDR. No. Not anybody I knew of, actually. Me.
That's right.
Duke Fame.
That's right. Duke Fame came out of
Duke
it.
Fame came out
Later
of it.
in the years.
So you were playing local bars for $10 a night.
Yep. That was a lot of money back then, too.
And then, you got there in '67 when Watts was going on.
Yes, I got to, and the whole movement of, the hippie movement, everything, like I said, I was totally, I'm still kind of conservative kind of guy and moderate. Yeah. And so I was going, oh, look at all these guys with long hair, and I had short hair then, and
You did?
it's been long since.
Been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. And so I got exposed to a lot in California that I wasn't exposed to in Ohio. And I was doing some gigging around, and this guy asked me if I wanted to record, and I went in and recorded, and I got a deal with Bell Records. And my first song, I was lucky to have Snuff Garrett, who did Liza Minnelli and Sonny and Cher, produce a song.
And your partner on that was?
Mark Trevelino.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you sang.
Oh, well, actually the girl that I performed with when we did the demo was Mickey Dolenz sister, Coco Dolenz. And there was management problems, so they brought in, like they do with Rock Vault, if you're not doing your job, they bring in somebody else. Isn't that? That's like any job.
So the great name of the group wasn't Paul and Coco.
It was Paul and JoJo. They brought this girl in to sing her part, and it was, come on, just one dance, it's easy. That was her part. Follow me. And just recently I was doing an interview, and a guy said, hey, I have your promotional copy, 45. And I said, really? He says, if you send me some of your new stuff, I'll send it to you. I said, I'm there. And then I did another interview, and I can't play it because I didn't have a frickin' turntable anymore. So this other guy sent me an MP3 of it. And so I have that in an MP3. And then I finally got a turntable from somebody else. So now I can play all the vinyl on it.
Isn't there a funny story about that song, about that it came out with a bullet?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. It was a 22 with a bullet. And I go, wow, this is it. 17 years old.
You guys know what that means?
Yeah.
With a bullet.
And all of a sudden, Vicki Lawrence came out with, that's the night that the lights went out in Georgia, on the same label. And that's the night that Paul Shortino's record got shelved.
From a bullet to a bomb.
Yeah. From a bullet to a shelf, actually. I was handing out those records left and right, and I didn't even have any after I was done. And they went, oh, wow, you're shelved. I'm going, oh, wow.
Robin, talk about how your big break came about.
Ooh. Well, I went to Holland with an old girlfriend at the time just for vacation. And her sister actually married a Dutch guy. And heading back to Dublin, I decided to go visit one of my sisters in London and stayed for 16 years. She was a really good cook. And I got involved with, I never drank actually. My first taste of alcohol, I think I was 20 years of age. Not bad for an Irish guy, right? That's true. It's true. And my brother-in-law said to me, he said, look, we're going to go to this Irish pub.
The Rising Sun.
Wouldn't you know, the Rising Sun. And so we did, and I had my first taste of beer. And I remember it was Colt 45. Remember that, Australia? Kicked my butt. But I had a second and a third, and he goes, you need to wash that down with a brandy and
Scotch
and ginger, right? And of course, so I never had a beer, and I certainly never had hard liquor. So now I'm really going for it. And the keyboard player in the band playing on stage, typically in English pubs, there's a Sunday morning session, just like we're here, but there's entertainment. You can have your beer, you can have Sunday lunch, or you get drunk and you go home and have your Sunday lunch. And we did the Sunday session. I was there on a Sunday night. The keyboard player came and he talked to me. They were called the Clubmen. And before I know it, I'm being lifted up onto the stage. Now, I played drums for maybe 10, 12 years. I was lousy. But I used to do some backup singing, and I never wanted to be a singer. It was never on the cards, was not in the plan, in the big picture. Anyway, he said, so I hear you sing. You want to sing a song? And I'm going, no. And of course, everybody's going, yeah, you need to sing. So he goes, well, what do you want to sing? And I threw a couple of keys at him, and he's looking at me like, oh, yeah, sure. So they knew the tunes. I sang them. And about a month later, he asked me if I'd like to be the singer because they hated the one that they had. And I said, no, I don't want to be the singer because I don't want to be a singer. Anyway, I did, and I stayed in the band for about 2 years. And on one of the weekends, a bass player and a guitar player came in, and they said, do you want to get away from this top 40 stuff? And I went, that'd be a nice break. So we cut a bunch of demos. Those demos went on to being heard by RCA Records and later on Chrysalis Records. That band broke up. Punk hit London at the time. Punk was huge. Sex Pistols, Stranglers, all of that sort of stuff. So what we started out, we were kind of a free kind of style of band. And punk hit London. That was the end of that story. Nobody wanted. It was a bit like, how the 80s died and the dinosaurs went away for a long time, but we were hiding. We were hiding, yes, just waiting. We were hiding. Hair was still getting longer, and that band broke up. That band was called Raw Deal. Punk died after a couple of years. After the record label just signed everybody and their mother, and they resurfaced as a band called Grand Prix. Fired their singer again. I'm always the replacement guy. And they fired their singer, and I got a call to come and cut some demos, and I'm going, you don't need me to cut demos, you guys all sing. Anyway, I joined Grand Prix, and we toured with Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson's first tour ever, and now I have myself a break. I have myself a record deal. We got the tail end of RCA Records, and then Chrysalis signed us. And all I ever really wanted was that little 7-inch vinyl. And I saw that first 7-inch vinyl, and it was like, and I went, not much fun in that. I'd like to see a stack of them. And we went on and we made a bunch of records, did a bunch of great tours, and a little segue, Michael Schenker Group was actually on Chrysalis Records. And of course
Let me stop you there and come back, because one of the things you talked about was the first record you bought.
The first record, oh yes, the first record I bought. So my girlfriend at the time, it's her birthday, and I'm thinking, so what do you buy somebody that's just like a girlfriend, first girlfriend, for a birthday gift? And I was big on Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I loved Cosmo's Factory, and there was a couple of singles at radio, right? Remember? And so I remember listening to Up Around the Bend, and I got, I gotta buy this record. So I bought the record as a birthday gift for her. And I did have a turntable. I was way ahead of you. I had a turntable, and I took the shrink wrap off this thing, and I stuck it on there, and I went, she ain't getting it. And she didn't get it. And that was my first vinyl ever. And I don't think she actually got a birthday gift, to be honest.
My first
I know.
vinyl was
What a scammer.
Last Train to Clarksville.
Really?
Yeah.
I might have given her the shrink wrap. I'm not sure. I'm not with the price tag on it. So it was a great time. I mean, you can't remember that stuff unless it means something. So it was a really good time.
Well, after my record got shelved,
Somebody really?
No.
You bought a turntable?
No, I bought all of them on the shelf. No, shortly after that, I got signed with Warner Brothers through Ronnie James Dio, and was in Rough Cut, and that was the label that I really wanted to be on. And then I, like Robin, replacement singer and replaced Kevin DuBrow on the fourth Quiet Riot record on CBS, and then.
Those replacement guys are good.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Sound just like the original guy.
Yeah. Well, we try to, anyways. I like to shove a little bit of our own stuff in there.
So, Robin, at the end of the 80 tour with Grand Prix,
Yes.
you guys had toured with Sammy Hagar and Nils
Lofgren.
Nils Lofgren.
When he had the trampoline. Remember that? Yeah, when he had the trampoline, he used to do
Here's where you
flip-flops.
Here's where you were introduced to former Scorpions and UFO guitarist Michael Schenker.
Yes. A couple of months before that, I ended up in Germany with the guitar player from Thin Lizzy, Brian Robertson, a former Michael Schenker Group player, Chris Glenn, who was with Alex Harvey Band. And we ended up in Frankfurt cutting some demos, and a producer by the name of Frank Farian, who later became infamous for signing Milli Vanilli.
Oh, wow.
They were real. They just didn't sing, but they were real. And I ended up in Far Studios, and he introduced me to Stairway to Heaven, and I went, I can't do that. You can't. Nobody can do a Zeppelin song. And he goes, no, that's okay. I just want you to sing the first 6 minutes or whatever it was. And I went, that's really weird. I'm only going to sing this. What happens to the whole end section? And he says, somebody else will do that. And I don't think that had actually been approached, that type of recording before. Anyway, long story endless, as Paul Shortino would say. I recorded the song. He said, would you be available for TV and whatever, and the release date? And I went, yes, sure. And he paid me some great money at the time, and I left. And about 3-4 months had parted. I get a call. There's a TV show in Berlin. Would you be interested in doing it? And we're going to release the single. And I'm going, but I didn't finish the song. How can you release it? And he goes, no, the song is done, mixed everything, and flew me into Frankfurt. And there I met Bobby Kimball, who now had left Toto. And I met Bobby for the first time, heard the finished track for the first time, did a TV show in Berlin, the Thomas Gottschalk show, 88 million viewers or something. Kate Bush was on the show, Slade was on the show. And Robert Plant was on the show. And I remember standing on this stage. We were just getting ready for camera work throughout the day, rehearsals. And I was facing the backdrop, which was a big black backdrop with a silver Stairway to Heaven on it. I'm looking at this thing, I'm going, this is pretty cool. And the guitar player said, Robert Plant is staring into the back of your neck. And I'm going, sure he is. And we didn't see the roster, we didn't know who else was on the TV show. And I look around, and Robert Plant was literally standing. He was standing like this, and I'm going. And I said, don't look at me, talk to the producer. And they had a good old chat.
And that's because nobody
had
lifted
attempted
songs,
Well,
right?
Zeppelin never actually, they weren't famous for singles per se. And Stairway to Heaven was never a single. It was never a single, and this was the first time. Actually, there was an Australian band that had released it, and Zeppelin actually stopped it many years beforehand. But they didn't stop this one, and we sold over 2 million singles alone just in England. And that's where the blasphemy came in, because we thought, you can't do a Zeppelin song and release it in England, because you'll be shot at the gate.
What's really funny is that he was at Frank Farian's studio.
And so was he.
I was there doing a solo record too, so it's really funny
So the
how
same place.
we've always
Years apart.
crossed paths somewhere.
Years apart. Anyway, so
I'm going to stop you there for a second, because you told me that Schenker offer you a job
Yes.
originally, and you turned
Yes,
it down?
Schenker offered me the job 4 years before that. He came to see Grand Prix in London, and Cozy Powell, anybody who's a drummer knows who Cozy Powell is. Cozy was there, and Michael saw the show, and next day I had a call to come to the rehearsal room, and I went, no, I can't do that because I'm about to go on tour. We're actually going out with Sammy Hagar. And I got all this bad press as this young Irish upstart who refused to join Michael Schenker, and who the hell does he think he is, and all that sort of stuff. But I knew who he was very well. That's another reason why I didn't join, because I was just an innocent young lad, never had a drink, and I'm going into a band that's full of drug abusers and alcoholics, and I'm going, yeah, you know. Anyway, my daddy taught me well, even for 13 years. But anyway, it's funny how you know, the circle of life really does join up. And 4 years later, Stairway to Heaven was a big success. Rudolf Schenker from the Scorpions had actually heard it on German radio, and he called Michael and he said, I sing, this is a very good idea. You call as a singer. And Michael goes, that's the same guy that refused to join me 4 years earlier. So they tracked me down. I was doing some promo work, and I came into Hanover in Germany, and I rehearsed and sang with Michael for about 3 days. And I ended up with MSG, that later then became McAuley Schenker Group, but kept the MSG logo. And it's funny, what comes around goes around. We toured for years, and I'm about to go to Japan with that man. 30 years later, we will actually headline Loud Park Festival on the 15th of October. So I think 37,000 people or something. So it's amazing. We are blessed.
Yes, we are.
We're truly blessed,
Truly
that it's been a good ride, and it ain't over yet.
Paul, you mentioned that you were with Rough Cut,
Yes.
and you have a fabulous story about the most, shall we say, exciting day of
Well,
your career?
what's really, really interesting about this story is that Rough Cut at the time had Jake Ely, who eventually went to Ozzy. And Rough Cut had pretty much the whole band was members of Rat. And they left Rat, Jake left Rat, the drummer from Rough Cut left Rat, the bass player, the guitar player, Chris, Matt, they all left Rat at one time. Rat was Mickey Rat, and everybody was from San Diego. And we got Jake in the band, and we were playing the Troubadour, and they put this ad out in the paper. I think it was BAM magazine and local California papers at that time for rock bands, and we were playing Doug Weston's Troubadour, and someone who had saw a picture of the band in there from the casting crew of Spinal Tap decided to come and check us out. So they came to the show, and they were in the middle of filming this, and I was wearing white leather and black boots to my knees, suede boots, and I performed that night in that same outfit, and so they said, the casting crew told our manager, hey, listen, would you have Jake, Paul, and David show up tomorrow, actually at Norm's in California, on Sherman Way, and so anyways, I go to...
I sold that place quite a while ago.
I figured you own that place. So anyways, I go to Norm's, and I'm the first guy there. The other guys are still sleeping. And it's a crack of stupid again. I always say that because I'm always go to bed so late. So I get up and I show up in my white outfit and my my leather or suede boots and everything, and I walk in and they go, Duke Fame. Awesome. And I didn't have to say anything. I just said, okay, cool. I walked out, and the wardrobe said, he's already dressed. So we don't even have to dress this guy. He showed up in uniform. So make a long story endless. We went, we we ended up getting a time where I had to go in and do my part in the film. And everything was ad lib, which was great because I'm terrible with CRS, can't remember stuff. It was great that I didn't have a script. So it was kind of an outline of what you're a rock star. And Howard Hessman was playing my manager. Paul Bennett from the Jeffersons was behind, he was being a hotel clerk. And we're sitting around in the lobby area, and it's Wendy Dio, my manager, and this girl who actually had been dating Jackson Browne. And she's supposed to be my arm candy as I go and do my scene. And as we're sitting there chatting, I keep telling the girls, manager and this, I don't even remember the girl who was supposed to be my arm candy. Anyways, I said, man, they're really having a bad hair day, you know? And I didn't know they had wigs on. So anyways,
What a trip.
we take a lunch break before I shoot my scene. And I'm sitting next to Rob Reiner, and I'm telling him all the great songs that Rough Cut could put in the movie, you know? This is about rock and roll. You know, we have all the songs. Big Bottom, My Girl's Got 'Em, and all these other songs. And I'm going, and I'm really serious. And then I look across the table, and there's Harry Shearer, Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, and this drummer friend I know, Rick Parnell. Well, I knew he didn't have a wig on. And I'm looking at those guys, and I'm going, you know, you guys look just like those guys that are having a bad hair day out there. And I get stuck my foot right in my mouth, right? And so we did my scene, and that got me such a, actually, when we were on the road with Rough Cut, we were out with Crocus and Accept, and we couldn't get a line check, we couldn't get a sound check, and I think we were in Chicago, I think it was, and we're in our backstage area, which was a little crappy little room, not like the other guys. We're third on the bill, and the road manager comes up and says, aren't you Duke Fame? And I went, yeah, because they were showing it all in the Howard Johnson's and the Holiday Inn. And then we filmed that scene at the Holiday Inn in Burbank by the airport. That scene that I am in that movie with. So I says, yeah, I'm Duke Fame. He says, well, the guys in Crocus want to meet you. And I went, really? So I go backstage, and I'm like, they're treating me like this huge star. And I'm like, I haven't even had a record.
I didn't even get a sound check.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling them, you know, it'd be nice if we could get a sound check or just a line check. Not a problem, Duke. And from that point on, we went from, we got Heineken beer instead of Budweiser, and we got a line check. And so I said, well, this is really great, you know. So Duke Fame has gotten me a lot of fame.
Heineken.
Actually, a lot of travels. And also, I was at the airport picking up the Dios, and they had their own limo company, and I was helping the limo driver put their luggage in the limo, and the road manager from REO walked up to me, and he goes, aren't you Duke Fame? Yes. Are you playing the Normo Dome? No. They could see I was getting in a limo. I wasn't getting in the limo. I was putting luggage in the limo. And they were getting in a shuttle, you know. They go, well, typical. You're on your way to the Normo Dome in a limo, and we're in a shuttle on our way to a hotel. So I got to meet all the guys, and I've met so many rock stars before I actually became a rock star in my own right. And I'm just really just a guy that likes to do what I do and love what I do, and I think Rob is the same way. And they put this label on us, and we're just regular folks too, you know. We're out there to help our fellow man and love what we do.
Paul, I'm going to come back in a couple minutes to your most embarrassing story, which is something about walking outside of a hotel room.
Put it right in a Rock Vault show.
So, Robin, tell us about the story about when you were with Survivor and they were selected to play the music for Dancing with the Stars.
Oh, right.
This would have been in '04, I believe.
Yeah, probably about '04. And I wasn't very long in Survivor. I was offered Survivor in '94. And a bit like Schenker, I said, nah, Survivor's a pop band. I don't want to join a pop band. And they would argue and go, yeah, it's not, it's a rock band. And I says, well, one single doesn't make you a rock band. And it's a single.
You're lucky you got
a
hired,
single,
man.
a single that nobody knows, right? But I knew the guitar player. We actually recorded what became a solo record for me. And anyway, so I was a couple of months in Survivor. We got this call to do Dancing with the Stars, perform as opposed to dancing, terrible dancer. And so we went on Dancing with the Stars, and the whole process there is that you do camera set up in the morning and you rehearse with stand-ins, and then comes showtime. And right across the hallway of CBS Studios in Hollywood was American Idol. And I know that we had, and I'm the only one live because it's impossible to wheel a band on and off and have it live and all that sort of stuff. So we were performing to track, but I was singing live. And the program director came to me about 5 minutes to green light time. And she said, you know that American Idol is across the hallway and they hold the #1 slot for best viewing audience, but we've kicked them out of that slot and we have about 86 million viewers tonight. And no pressure on you because you'll be live, so don't mess up. And I remember walking out there as the new guy, you know, and now you're singing this Rocky III massive single, and I'm going, I want my mommy. I want my mommy. But it was a great time, and the dancers came on, and I don't know if anybody, I don't watch that sort of stuff, but when you're there and you see these dancers, especially the ladies, they don't even touch the floor. It looks like they're floating. It's just, it's incredible. And the guys came out in all of these boxer hoodies and all that sort of stuff, and it's a scary moment if you haven't done TV on that level, and then suddenly you're on, But again, another from this guy that grew up in this, place that nobody knows about in Ireland to Dancing with the Stars. These are all great moments that you never forget and really appreciate. And the fact that we're still working and still able to sing and have our hair, even if it's somebody else's hair, no. The fact that we can still do that. I've actually known Paul, just a little segue here. I've known Paul since I first came to LA in 1988. And we would always cross paths. So it's amazing that we're actually sitting here.
Yes.
And all of that time later, we're on the same show. We have very similar backgrounds, similar incidents that we can relate to. And
Yeah, absolutely.
And people always, I think that it's an easy road and it's like there's no hills and hollows, but there's plenty. There are plenty. And it takes a lot of resolve and a lot of... If that's what you want to do, that's what you will do.
And you have to have a passion and love to do what we do.
So I didn't mean to segue there, but just as a little aside, it's
great to be working next to my brother.
And we have a blast. We have a blast. I'm not sure we take too many things serious.
Yeah.
That serious.
Well, I'm going to have Paul go into the story about locking himself out.
Oh, yes, I was
and then
touring.
I'm going to have you do your most embarrassing story.
Oh, Lord.
I was in Spain touring with Carmine Appice and Javier Vargas.
It's about 4 years ago.
4 years ago. It was my 60th birthday. And we had performed that night, and we had a day off the next day. And usually my whole ritual was take a bath after the show, because I love to take a bath. And our bathtub here in Las Vegas fits 6 people, so it's got jets and everything else.
We've all been in there.
Let's talk about that story.
Anyways, so I would take a bath every night after the show. And this particular night we were in Madrid and we had the next day off. Well, it was my birthday and I was all alone. So I popped open the mini bar and had a couple beers, took a Xanax. took another Xanax, and then had a little bit of wine, and I passed out reading I had some darker prescription glasses on than these, and was reading because my clear glasses had broken, so I was at the mercy of these dark glasses. So I was completely nude because I used to dress in my sweats and everything and get up early to have the breakfast before I get on the bus and we go to the next gig. Well, this night I went to bed naked and woke up in the middle of the night and had to take a leak. At my age, it's like I got up, walked out the door, slammed behind me, and oh shit, excuse me, holy Moses, I'm out here nude. And dancing around because I gotta go to the bathroom. And I see a trash can at the end of the hall, and I go run over there. I go take a leak in the trash can. And then I gotta get a key. Because you have to put your key in this little slot so all the electrical work and the TV and everything. I had to figure that out over there. That's a smart thing, actually, because you can't use any of the appliances or lighting unless you put your room key in there. So it was still in there, of course. And I was outside, so it had a glass. I was on the 3rd floor, and it had a glass elevator. And I did something really stupid when I had a band called the Bad Boys after Rough Cut, in between Quiet Riot, or actually after Quiet Riot.
You're going to have to show us that.
And I have bad on one cheek and boy tattooed on the other. So, and it's about this big in flames. So,
Yeah.
okay.
More. We need to see it.
I balls. It's no ball. So anyways, I go down the elevator and it's like this. And I checked in with the glasses, so the guy at the desk knew it was me. He brought me the key like this.
Because of the tattoo.
I said, hey.
You got a fig leaf?
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. I said, I'm sure you have seen all of this before, except for this, So anyways, I got my key and I got back in the room. And I was very happy about that, actually. So
that's awesome.
That's my story, my 60th birthday story.
I can't compete with that. Don't even ask me. I don't have anything like that.
Can't top that. Well, let's go.
Well,
Let's do the mini concert right now.
Oh, you want to do it?
Break it up right now.
Excellent.
holy Moses. Thank God my wife's right there.
So normally, as you know, with Raiding the Rock Vault, we don't get a chance really to do a lot of other kind of material. So when Norm asked us to do this, we thought, okay, let's not do what we normally do, and let's do something a little bit different. So we put a bunch of different tunes together. It's not typical for us. And just because you're sitting out there, we know that you know these songs. So the first one we're going to do is actually from that Cosmos Factory record. Been covered many times by many different people, but that's okay. So don't be shy. If you want to sing, we'd love to hear you.
And seeing how that Houston has been flooded.
Yes. So many
We're going to do
disasters.
Have You Ever Seen the Rain instead of Who'll Stop the Rain.
Yes.
Yeah. You can also clap if you want. We'd love to have you make some noise. That would be really cool. Yeah. Someone told me long ago there's a calm before the storm. I know it's been coming for some time. When it's over, say it'll rain a sunny day. I know, shining down like forever on it goes, through the circle fast and slow. I know you can't stop, I wonder. Sing it to me now. I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain coming down on a sunny day? Yeah, I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain? I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain coming down on a sunny day? What you gonna do, huh? So, let's do the turtle. Yeah, why don't we do a turtle? Anybody remember the turtle? Now we know you know this one. You can see who you're telling. Imagine me and you, I do. I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight. So happy together. If I could call you up and there's a time, and you say you belong to me and ease my mind, imagine how the world would be so very fine, so happy together. I know you can sing. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Me and you and me, no matter how we toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. I can't see me loving nobody but you for all my life. When you're with me, baby, the skies will be blue for all my life. Sing it. Me and you and me, no matter how we toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. No words on this part. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Me and you and me, no matter how we toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me, so happy together. So happy together. How is the weather? So happy together. So happy together. What do you say? Me and you and me. And none of you sang this song.
Well, you never can be too young in life, right?
Oh,
That's why.
like forever.
Yes, well, you always stay forever young. It's going to feature Robin
Quick,
on
my
this
hair
one.
is starting to fall.
At least we still have it.
Yes, the falling part.
I've always got a bad hair day. At least I have hair. I never know what it's going to look like. Look at this mess.
Let me see your hands. Come on. Everybody. May the good Lord be with you down every road you roam. And this sunshine be courageous and be brave. And in my heart you'll always stay forever young, forever young. May good fortune be with you, may your guiding light be strong. Build a stairway to heaven with a prince or a vagabond. May you never love in vain, and in my heart you will remain forever young, forever young. Yes, I'm still running. You broke the laws and you loosed the chains. Carry the cross of my shame, of my shame. You know I believe it, but I still
is so beautiful.
Oh, it is.
We're going to do a song from one of my favorites,
Oh.
Mr. Satchmo, a little tune called Wonderful World.
Little soft she shuffle. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. What do you say?
I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright sunny days and the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Everybody. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the skies, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I see babies cry, I'll watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself,
Paul's gonna do something really special. He's gonna get naked. At last, my love has come along. These lonely nights are over. And life is like a song. At last. Oh, the skies above are so blue. My heart was wrapped up like a clover. Oh, the night I fell for you. It's for my wife on our 26th-year anniversary. I had a dream I could hold on to. I had a dream I could call my own. I had a thrill to put my cheek to. A thrill that I will never know. You smile. Oh, then a spell was cast. Oh, and here we are in heaven. For you are mine, yeah. Come in, for you are mine. At last. God bless you all. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
I got a pick.
Awesome, guys.
Actually, I have a couple.
Did you steal that from the Rock Ball?
Here, JJ. Here's another one. Just like a real rock concert. Oh, you rubbed the bad side.
That's funny.
J.J. Snyder.
Yes, right here.
Morning Blend. Thank you, J.J. Thank you, guys. That was awesome. That was really great. Paul, I'm going to go back to you to tell that story about Rough Cut at Topanga Canyon.
Oh. Yeah, I think it was 1985. I think
84 Olympics.
84 Olympics. We're doing a big.
Town is on edge. From,
the whole city's on edge,
yeah.
you know. And Rough Cut decides to do a promotional shot, and we're all. I got this belt that is full of cartridges from England when we were over there, and so I have this cartridge belt on, and we look like. Actually, we look like a bunch of banditos. Exactly. I was just going to say we look like them. All we needed was the sombreros, and to make a long story endless, I go by my brother who's a sheriff. God rest his soul, because he's no longer with us. My younger brother, and so I pick up his shotgun, some of his guns, some of his kids' guns that look like real guns, and so we're all like packing. empty guns. And somebody across from the park at Topanga Canyon in California, and they shot a lot of the old cowboy movies up there, calls the police and says there's some terrorists in the park. Well, we've been all over the park shooting, and now we're going back to our cars to leave. Here comes a helicopter, cop cars coming from everywhere. This one cop comes out, he's got his gun, and he's going like this. Drop your guns. And we go, but they're not loaded. And Amir, the one guitar player, he's got a gun in his, looks like a 45, and it's a plastic gun. And he's going for it. The cop's going, touch that gun and I'll kill you. You know, and so we finally got all the guns out, and my brother's shotgun was dropped in the mud, you know, right, the barrel right in the mud. They confiscated all his guns, and when they found out exactly what was going on, they were a little bit relieved. But the officer that was pointing the gun, we actually, because the helicopter was over us, and they had guys with guns and shit. And the officer that was holding the pistol that was telling us to drop everything said, you don't realize that I was going 140 on the 210 freeway, and which turns into the 134, and it was the 134 because the 210 is in Pasadena. So anyways, he goes, I was going 140 miles an hour to get here, and so you can imagine our adrenaline is up, and I'm saying, absolutely, but can I get my brother's guns back? I mean, he's a sheriff. He's going to kill me when he finds out you got his guns, I'm not more afraid of you. I'm more afraid of what he's going to do to me when he finds out. But that's pretty much the story of that. He did get his guns back, and I didn't see him for a while. He was my little brother, but he was actually pretty big.
Robin, I want you to introduce your wife and tell us the story about how you guys met.
Ooh, all of the story?
Could be a little longer.
Leave out
than
the
we
naked
expected.
parts.
The
okay.
naked part? There were naked parts, yes. My wife is from Vienna in Austria, not Australia, Austria. And she used to work for a teen magazine who had quite a big circulation, and we had this
Was Munich? Was she?
no, I actually met her in Frankfurt, actually in Cologne in Germany. And we were on tour with MSG, we were on tour with Def Leppard. And we were doing, I think about 36 shows back to back across Europe on the Hysteria album. It was huge for Leppard and for us. And Michael and I came out of an elevator. We were out doing some promos throughout the day, and we were sitting in the lobby waiting to be picked up, and the elevator doors open, and I was a big fan of Bridget Nielsen at the time, just so you know. I just loved that punky haircut, and when she looked really good. Sorry, Bridget. And so this vision walked out with a red head, and I thought it was Bridget Nielsen. Skinny, tall, 5'9", 5'10", and this faux fur coat on, and I'm going, man, check this out here, And I'm thinking maybe she was with Def Leppard or something. And she looked at me, and I'm going, huh. So as far as I was concerned, everybody was gravitated towards Michael Schenker. I was just, who the hell was I? My hair was this big, was about this wide.
He's not kidding. He had the biggest mullet going
The
on.
best mullet. Yeah. I actually got an award for a mullet. No, in actual fact,
awesome
and
hair.
as a little side, Robert Plant used to have a mullet at the same time. And when Stairway to Heaven was a single, Plant was sporting a mullet. So they used to run ads on the English newspapers, who had the best mullet.
And he did.
And
He did.
you could nest 10 crows in there, easily. And just a little aside, I remember, so I'm Irish and Catholic, so I remember one weekend, it was Easter, and I went back to visit my sister because I was living in Germany. This is a true story. And it was Holy Saturday night, the Paschal fire was lighting, and in this particular church, you'd walk outside, all the lights were out in the church, and they'd light the Paschal fire outside. This is a bad segue, this is not planned. And so we'd light the Paschal fire, the priest would, and then we'd have lighted candles walking back in to the dark church, light into dark, right? Makes sense biblically. And can I just borrow this? So I'm in the church, and I have my missalette in this hand, and I have my lighted candle. And atop, I have this stiff stuff. Anybody remember stiff stuff? Right? It stays right where it is. Well, it was here. And it was here. And I remember thinking, I have an itch. And one of my nieces was there, and my sister. There was just the three of us. And I remember going, and I had my candle. So I forgot for a second, so I went, and I am not kidding. It was like you took a chainsaw and just cut the side down. Just
You went punk. You went punk.
So it was like. So my niece started laughing, and I'm going. The smell of hair in a. It was like this. The lights were out, except for candles, and it was like. That's all it was. Okay, and everybody was going, "Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!" Just like. Okay? And my niece started laughing, and you know when you're in a situation where you're not supposed to laugh? Yeah. It's just like you go... And so we kept laughing, and my sister was like really upset. She goes, "You two just need to leave the church." But where were we with the story?
Gina with the coat.
Gina, anyway, I won't get into the gory details, but we did the show with Leopard, and we had a meet and greet afterwards, and I really fancied this girl. October 14th of this year, we'll be 24 years married. Yeah. Been together 26 years. The only woman, and thank God for my wife. Twin boys, 18-year-old twin boys, all 6'2" of them. And, she was sitting across the table, and I remember one of our management people going, "You're singing tomorrow, you need to shut this down, you need to get out of here." And I'm going, "Okay, I'm gone." And as I got up to leave, I got this little note. It says, "What are you doing?" And I'm thinking, she sent me a note. And she spoke almost no English, and I spoke pretty decent German at the time. And I say at the time because I was living there, and I was practicing and speaking it. So I remember writing in a scribble, I went, "Whatever you're doing." And I left. And I went to my room, and about an hour later, very resourceful.
She's a Taurus.
She is a Taurus. And I remember I was in these awful tour sweats, not ready for guests.
No, but you did
I
get
was
ready.
not ready for guests. And I remember going, I went, "Not a chance. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to open that door." Well, damn. I remember in the Survivor days we used to go,
Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
So anyway,
You opened
I
the
opened
door.
the door. I opened the door, and Bridget walked in.
And it's been that way ever since.
And 26 years later, there was a 4-year space because, the tour ends, and she actually came to visit me on Christmas Day, about 4 years. 4. Have you noticed? I refused Michael Schenker for 4 years. I refused Survivor for 4 years. And I didn't see the girl that later became my wife for 4 years after that particular incident. We hung, we went to France, and we were in Spain and that sort of stuff, but it was like a 3-week period. And I came back to the States. I've been here for 30 years, and proud citizen, just in case you wondered. And for a very long time. And she came to, we were touring. We did an unplugged tour. And I thought, I got to find out where this, and I used to tell everybody about this girl. Everybody. I mean, everybody and their mother, or anybody that would want to listen after a few drinks. And I made some investigations, and this is a boring story, and somebody says, the crazy one. I was, no, I don't remember her being crazy. It was the other one that was crazy. So anyway, she walked in to an interview we were doing. She was wearing a wig and this beautiful Vienna lace. And I said, there she is, because I told the guitar player about her. And he said, but she doesn't look anything like Bridget Nielsen. I said, well, the wig, she's wearing a wig. And I said hello to her, gave her a hug, and she goes, you remember me? And I went, of course I remember you, I never forgot you. And she goes, that would explain why you answered all those letters I sent you for the last 4 years. True, but of course the girls in the management office would get the fan mail, and they go, Next. So there was a ton of mail that I never actually received, and that was my explanation. It's true. Anyway, she came to visit me in the States here. On Christmas Day, she stayed for about 3 weeks, and she was Miss Vienna in 1988. So about 3 weeks later, she was, and she used to do it for fun. She was in the Miss, what they call Upper Austria competition, and she came third, and I went, I'll surprise her, I'll go visit her. And then I saw her, and I remember saying to her friend, damn, I could really marry that girl. And she goes, what did you just say? And I said, I didn't say anything. So she ran to the balcony, she goes, he wants to put a ring on your finger. He wants to put a ring on your finger. And we got married 2 years later. And yeah.
You're up, Paul.
It does work in rock and roll, believe it or not. You just have to put the effort in and buy lots of flowers. Yeah.
Well, I'm on my second marriage for 26 years, and my wife Carmen is sitting right over there. Carmen. I was married prior, just to have, I think, a child with the lady that I had a child with, my first wife. And I have a son of 40, 2 grandkids, 9 and 16. Met Carmen in a dive bar in California.
Shame on you.
We had the greatest jam session every Sunday night there. And her girlfriend, Maureen, was a bartender there. And we were jamming that night, and Carmen had came up with Samina Petrillo. And Carmi Petrillo's daughter, and she came up there, and I saw Carmen. I walked by Carmen, and I saw her, and I went, my God, where have you been all my life? And we kissed, one kiss, and that was it.
Right just there?
Right there, it was her birthday, and she had turned 25. And anyways, after that night, she went back to Las Vegas, and we were trying to get a hold of each other, and she finally wrote me a letter, find out how to get a hold of me. And I was coming back and forth from Los Angeles every Sunday. I would leave to come up and see her, and I think it was not much more than, 6 weeks or something like that. And we went to a rock club here in Las Vegas, and I came up with a former artist that I did a record with, Jeff Northrup. And we went into this club called the Rock Club on Industrial. And went in there, and actually before this happened, I came up with the bar owner, and I met Carmen at the plaza, and I told her, I'm gonna marry you. And she goes, yeah, right. And we were up all night, me and this gentleman that I came up with, and he had a Mercedes convertible, 2-seater, probably 85 SL 250 or whatever it was. And he left the top down, and I kept trying to wake him up. We were in the Plaza Hotel. I kept telling him, get up, get up, get up. It's gonna rain, and your top's down. And he's got these sheepskin covers on his seat. Well, I kept trying to wake him up, and it poured like it never poured before. I finally got him up, and we go down there, and we open the door, and the car was full of water. So we had to drive back that night to Los Angeles, and shortly after that, I did come back up with Jeff. And we were at this rock club, and these people were having their anniversary, and I got up to sing. And I said, would you guys get married? And they said, we got married in the Valley of the Fire. Well, I told Carmen, let's go get married in the Valley of the Fire tonight, because we were engaged. And so we went to the commissioner's office, and I was short money, and her girlfriend, Denise Triscello, who's a photographer for the Associated Press here in town, I think, and she was he was my best man, and she was the maid of honor, and I had a paper clip for my wedding band, and I had taken all of my gold that I had, and Carmen had given it to a talisman on a full moon, and he made her engagement ring that is still her wedding ring. It's a lily with a diamond in it, and she still has the paper clip, and this is my original wedding band from 26 years. I got fat and got a bigger one and lost it in the pool when I got skinny, so I went back to the original. And we've been. She's been my bride and my soulmate. I found my soulmate for 26 years until death do us part.
Amen.
Greatest thing that ever happened to me. She really is.
I know we're well past our allotted time, but I wanted, if you could both do a very abbreviated explanation of how Raiding the Rock Vault got started.
Oh,
And then we'll let the audience have their
Okay.
shot at you guys.
yeah, I was on tour with MSG. I literally came off tour. I was picking my boys up from middle school, had a phone call from a guy called John Payne, who was the bass player with the John Payne's version of Asia. And he said, I'm putting a project together. I have a bunch of songs. I'd like you to sing. You can pick whatever you want. I had bumped into John on Survivor when Asia was opening up for Survivor. He stayed and watched the show. And I said, when do you want me over? And he had a studio in Glendale, California. And I went over and I picked 6 songs or something. And we just started reminiscing about English sitcoms. And I think we did more laughing than we did recording. But we got the job done. And he gave me basically a brief outline of what the show was, who the producers were. So Harry Cowell, who's still the producer, Simon Napier Bell, whose concept it was to begin with, who managed Paul Dexter on lights, and this whole idea of Simon, who used to manage George Michael's and Wham and
Also
the Yardbirds. And Simon lives in Thailand and had saw a tribute band, and he went, well, what a great idea if we had a bunch of guys who've actually made records, toured, and have names, and if we put this together with a whole concept around it, this could actually fly. There was no mention of Vegas, there was no mention of anything, it was just this idea of a show. So I went in, I recorded the stuff. John says, the idea is to put this, to finish a record, make a sizzle, and shop it. And January, this was
December.
This was, yeah, but this was like early in the year, like I think it was like May or June when I recorded
what
this
year?
stuff. This would have been 2012. And come November, John had called in October and he said, look, I think we're going to do a show at the Mayan Theater in downtown LA. And I want to get rehearsals going, and I need a guitar player. Do you have any suggestions? And I remember I said, hey, you know, I just did a bunch of rock and roll fantasy camps with Howard Leese, the guitar player from Heart. And he said, I don't know Howard. Can you call him? So I called Howard, and Howard says, are you doing it? And I said, yes, I'm doing it. He goes, well, if you do it, I'll do it. So then I told John and gave him the contacts. John called Howard. Howard was on board. Then he goes, I need somebody else. John had already tried to talk to Doug Aldrich, who is in the show. Doug was busy with Whitesnake, and he said, Doug can't do it right now. Who do you think? And I said, well, I know Tracy Guns very well from LA Guns. And he says, how is Tracy to work with? I have heard funky stories about Tracy. And I went, call him. I'll call him first. So I called him. Tracy was in. And so now we have 2 guitar players. He already had Jay Shellen on drums from Asia because he was working with him. And John played bass, so now we have the semblance of a band. We're almost ready to go. I'm in as a singer. He had Andrew Freeman cut a lot of the demos also earlier on in the day. So Andrew was on board. And
Now, just
we did the show without a rehearsal. We never got to do a show. We never got to set up. We saw
never
lights
knew
and-
what
yeah.
the what.
Yeah.
We were in a.
We never
rehearsal.
actually saw the show till we performed it.
Right.
Basically.
So we
Yeah,
didn't
that
really
is
know
the
what it
truth.
was like.
That is the truth. We went and we rehearsed and we came out on stage and that was just like, ha, this is it. And we had no idea. I had no idea what the stage looked like.
And when
We
I
had-
was approached by it,
Yeah.
I was doing the Ronnie James Memorial that year. And John approached me, and then I got asked if I would, he made a trip up to Las Vegas and asked me if I would be interested in recording a song or two, and would I be interested in doing some project? And I said, sure, I'll be interested. I'm all there. And next thing you know, we did the Mayan thing, like Robin said, and I lived in Vegas, so Carmen and I drove up to LA. They had been rehearsing for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So me and Joe Lynn Turner, who was in the show at that also from Rainbow, and I think he was in Deep Purple for a
Right,
while,
Deep
wasn't
Purple,
he?
right.
So we got some songs to sing too. He actually was doing Light My Fire then, and when he left, when he didn't want to do the project, I ended up doing Light My Fire. So being from Vegas, and my wife's family is, her grandfather was an architect here in Las Vegas, and her mom and them are all, native Las Vegas folks.
Her
grandfather, Walter
architect of the Flamingo, is that correct?
Yes, he was the architect for the Flamingo, and also did the Mint, put air conditionings in all the Las Vegas schools, and did quite a bit of architecture here. And to make a long story endless, we're driving up to Los Angeles to do this rehearsal with them. We only get to do one rehearsal, and the next day we're in the Mayan Theater. And at the same time, my mother is in the hospital having a defibrillator, I think, or a pacemaker putting in her heart. She's having surgery. And so we go and we rehearse, and the first day they filmed the back half of the sizzle, and the next day
And if you don't know what the Mayan basically looks like a Mayan temple. And that was
Yes.
the concept of the rock vault to
because
begin with.
it was supposed to be the end of the world
Yeah.
at that time. Remember, in 2012, it was going to be blown.
And the whole idea of the rock vault was like this buried capsule with all of the music of classic rock buried with it.
So
And-
being here in Las Vegas,
Yeah.
we did the show, was a success, and they says, do you know anybody here in Las Vegas
Who'd be foolish enough
that
to
we
buy
could put
this?"
the show in? And I said, well, I know somebody over at the LVH at the time, when it was the LVH before it became Westgate, and Rick White. Invited, I made a few calls, and we had a meeting, and next thing you know, Sir Harry and John Payne were up here, and myself, and we were in the office of Rick White, and he says, I've got an opening here, and if you guys want to bring it in, and next thing you know, we were here, and it was really interesting because I was very close to Paul Dexter, and I didn't know Sir Harry and all these other folks that were involved, and he was telling me about this project, Raiding the Rock Vault, that he was putting the staging together, and the lighting and all of this stuff, and all the video footage, and I go, that's funny that you say that, because I just did this song for this guy, and I think I'm involved in this thing. And he says, I think you are too. And the next thing you know, we all end up here in Las Vegas, and we've been here for 4 years, and it's been a wonderful ride, and we hope to continue this ride.
Just so you know, I know you know that we're over at the Hard Rock Saturday through Wednesday, but November 25th will be our 1,000th show.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we still have a job,
Yes, we do.
at least till November 25th.
I was told February of next year. We're good at
Really?
that. Yep.
Well, that's a great note to turn it over to Sean. We'd like to have some questions for the guys.
Yeah, show of hands for questions. By the way, we've done 14 conversations with Norm. This is the first time I wasn't the biggest ass on stage. Okay. All right, where are you? I need hands. Here we go, right down the middle. Paul, you know I love you, baby.
Funny.
I get the sunspots. Whenever I blink, I just see white. It's craziness. Okay, here we go. Sir, question.
Hey, both you guys came up in an era of big record labels, big record deals, obviously prior to iTunes and Napster and streaming online. And that dealt a big blow to the record business, but you guys have survived and still have lucrative careers. Can you talk about what the biggest adjustment was at that point in the music business once you realized that, you know, record stores were going away, big record labels were going away? Was there anything that you guys had to adapt to in order to, you know, continue your careers?
Great question.
Well, we had the luxury, I say openly, we had the luxury of big record advances, which were essentially production advances for the making of the record and everything for running the business attached to that. No iTunes, as you said. Strongly advised that you could tour, but you couldn't tour if you did not have your MTV or your VH1 video. So everything was essential. It was based around that. If you didn't get on MTV, you didn't get a tour, most likely. If you didn't have at least an AOR charting song, you didn't get the tour. And unlike a lot of today, while there were some buy-ons, you stood a far better likelihood of getting on the back of a good tour with at least a top 40 or a top 10 AOR hit at the time. When iTunes and everything kicked in, record sales plummeted because the record stores are going out. I mean, it used to be a great place to go hang. Now they're back in and fashionable. I know one of my sons forever lives in the old, and he bought a record turntable. He loves vinyl. And it's amazing how this made a huge comeback. But it made it a lot easier when everything went digital. Not a lot of people like digital, but you didn't need the big guy anymore. You didn't need the label anymore because people were setting up shop in the garage. It's not an understatement that when people go, oh, they're a garage band. They literally were garage bands. You used your room when you're out. You could record a whole record in your toilet.
Well, it seems like we've
No,
worked.
it is true. It's absolutely true. All you need was a laptop with Pro Tools, and not everybody knew Pro Tools, so the guy that had it, you could go to him. But you could turn the stuff out, and demos were no longer demos. This was like great quality stuff.
And it seems like we've went in a full circle.
Yeah.
We're back to singles. And with the technology we have today, it makes it a little easier to some young up-and-coming bands that they can do a video. You can stick it on YouTube. We're back to singles instead of albums, because albums, after a while, you'd get one or two good songs on the record and the rest of it was crap.
But also back then, if you wanted to record a song, you had to go to a studio. Studios cost money.
Yeah.
And at that time, studios were the only place to go, so you damn well paid a huge price to go to these studios on an hourly basis. Even rehearsal rooms were like stupid.
And the record label would pick a producer, and you'd have to pay the producer. He'd get
Points.
like 50,
Everybody got
60
something
grand.
for something. Nobody did anything for nothing.
Yeah, so-
now you don't need it.
Yeah.
I record songs, I go to Paul's house.
Yeah.
I record it, and that song can be for Germany. It goes to Germany. It's gone. It's there, and I wasn't in Germany. I was here. And that's the beauty of that part of it. So there are some huge advantages to its speed. The speed of which everything happens now is you get it done. You want it tomorrow? You want it tonight? It's there. You could not do that. Not everybody likes it because everybody likes that sort of, they like that live feel, everybody in the room at the same time.
And the one thing is record company has to recoup all that money that they gave you. So they give you all that money for production,
They want it
and then a
back.
producer, and then you might have a little bit of money for tour support, and if not,
I was naive. I will just add something. I used to think that when a limo came to pick me up, take me to the airport, they loved me. And
You
I didn't have
paid
to
for
pay
it.
for it. But I actually was the one paying for it. And I'm going, if I'd known that, I'd have gone on a pickup.
yeah.
But you're naive, and your managers are driving around in Porsches and Lamborghinis and Ferraris, and you're not. But you're doing the work. But they're going, yeah, but if it wasn't for me.
And all the crew's making a good check.
So yeah, it's changed. There's a lot of changes.
We have time for about one or two more questions. Over to the front. LJ, I see you, buddy. I'm coming. Yes, sir. What's your question?
First of all, the friendship that we have, but observing you from when you started this show. I can relate so much from being in the business myself, but you all are great ambassadors of rock and roll. And especially watching the show develop from when you first started raiding the Rock Vault, seeing how you cut this out, you added this. But if it's 400 people or 40,000 people that you all played for, every time I go and see it, it's like for the first time. Fresh out of the wrapper. And the way you interact with the crowd, it's your musicianship and your singing is phenomenal. But it's the heart that captures a lot of the people that keep coming back. That is a big success of the show. And if I can just follow up on that,
That's very kind.
to call Paul Shortino and Carmen many times, and I salute the ladies that have been putting up with your shit for years. No, but you never say no to a good cause. You never ask how much money am I getting. You say, what's the date and what time do you want me there? That's the true spirit of Las Vegas entertainment. And I sincerely mean that. Thank you, Norm. You do a great job. And to you, brother.
Thanks, LJ.
You know, you got a great future to keep your nose clean.
Wow, that's rock and roll.
Can't do it without JJ.
Last question, way in the back, and this will wrap it up. I'm coming for you. This, by the way, is the most exercise I get. So this is great. Nice subtle jog. Hello, sir.
Hey, great job. To make a long story not endless. My wife and I got married at Valley of Fire 18 years ago. So we must have known something good was going on. And we've seen the show 8 times now, but pros and cons to being out at the Hard Rock after a few other venues in town, to being on the road, being in the States, being overseas. What's good and what's bad with being right there for almost your 1,000th show now, if there is good and bad?
Great question.
Yeah, great question. I think I speak for Paul because we have a lot in common. I think we just love to goof off and perform. Sometimes people go, you guys look like you're having so much fun. I think the fact of the matter is that we are. And I will just jolt Paul's memory. About 2 years ago, there's always ups and downs in a show in terms of will we go on, will another casino pick us up. So when we would go through those transitions, I think there was always somewhat of a question mark. Wow, what if this is it? And I know that we spoke backstage almost on a nightly basis that whatever offers came in from the outside, because at the end of the show we're introduced as formerly of this, that, and the other. And I think we both believe that unless you're still active, then you're inactive, and it doesn't relate anymore. So Rough Cut and Quiet Riot and Paul's history became active again. And it's hard to believe that, in my MSG days, it's 30-something years. And as I said earlier, I'll be in Japan in 2 weeks' time in front of 37,000 people. And how that compares to, and he just came back, and how that compares to performing here, it's a very different set of tools, but it's still a show. And
Still a stage.
And still a stage, and whether it's 140, 400, or 4,000, or 40,000, I think we have a job to do when we walk out there, because we all have jobs. You guys are on TV, and you're relating to an audience. There's people watching you, critiquing you, wondering when you're going to slip up. And we always say, we live. I think we're one of the, if not the only one, show in Vegas. We don't use track. We've never used track. Yeah. So
We got to be on
in
our game
language
every
that's
time.
acceptable in the room, if we make a big boo-boo,
And I've made a few.
then you for sure, you hear it, you see it, and we've been doing it long enough that we know how to cover our tracks, no pun intended.
And I think the difference between raiding the Rock Vault, we're actually doing songs by great artists.
Yeah.
And when we go out and do our own thing,
Right.
it's really nice to be able to connect with what we created.
And
When
that's
I
an
was in
excellent-
Japan,
That's
I
an
was-
excellent point, because
when I was in Japan for the first time ever, they got to see me perform acoustically because I did a 2.5-hour show of all my own material, Rough Cut, Quiet Riot, King Cobra, solo stuff. And then I said I wanted to do an acoustic thing because nobody had ever experienced that anytime I ever toured Japan. So it was a treat for them and it was a treat for me to be stripped down and give them a piece of my spirit and my soul. So doing our stuff when we go out on the road is a lot different than doing Raiding the Rock Vault, because we're trying to do a tribute to the great artist of those songs that we do and try to do them justice.
keep the integrity of the song. That's our
Yes.
job, you know.
And we give it 100% or 150%, and every night when we do that show.
But to answer, I think it's also important to stay connected with what it is that we do outside of the Rock Vault, because
Yes.
we have our own material. We've spent years writing all of this stuff, and if you don't get a chance to perform it, it's like you're just pushing it to one side. So I love to go out. I think Paul does too,
Yes.
to reconnect with what brought you there in the first place. And I always think with Rock Vault, we're just vehicles that the song can move.
Kinda
through.
like
That's
today.
all. We're just carrying the song. They're not ours.
It's kind of like today, we got to do stuff that we never
Yeah.
get to do.
Yeah. And
And
none of
we're
you
out of
sang,
our
so
own
that's
genre.
really good.
This has been fantastic, guys. The next Conversations with Norm, by the way, is in December. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Norm, over to
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
I hope all of you had as good a time as I did. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Robin.
It's okay.
Alzheimer's has set in. I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
Isn't he awesome?
Yes.
You guys are great. You guys are awesome. I just want to also thank our generous and supportive sponsors: Binion Steakhouse, Nevada Coin Mart, Las Vegas Review Journal, KTNV, Channel 13, Elite Media, Jerry Metellus Photography, Vegas for Locals, Las Vegas Keynote Speakers, eVision Media, and also a very special thank you goes out to my friend Myron Martin, Glenn Meadis, and the entire Smith Center staff.
Beautiful.
They've been so wonderful. And finally, a thank you to our announcer, Sean Tempesta, and my trusty assistant, Joanne Downey. Please stand, Joanne. Thanks again and have a great day. Appreciate it very much. You guys are awesome.